My fellow Americans.
Take the red pill.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
The disastrous rise of misplaced power exists.
All we have built, all we have worked for, would be destroyed.
There is nothing the political establishment will not do.
And this nation will not be fully free until all its citizens are free.
Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action,
These criminals cannot be rewarded.
so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction.
There is a point beyond which they must not advance.
They're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way. Here I am.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
The cost of freedom is always high.
Those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
This is a crusade! This is a holy war against the deep state!
We never wanted to be right, but yet things are all adding up to the firestorm.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another four-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up. The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe. They will lie, and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever is necessary. The Clintons are criminals, remember that. This is well documented. And the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back. I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefits of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family, instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks. Who would have thought? I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're on the world. My name is Josh. Welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This is where we bring you that unfolding global conspiracy, and a conspiracy it absolutely is. And, you know, we are ramping up August. It's been a crazy August, has it not? You know, shit is moving fast. We've been talking about the firestorm, how this is going to be coming for the last 3 to 4 years, and it's finally here. It's ramping up. Things are getting crazier and crazier, and it feels like we are on the brink of chaos, doesn't it? I know everybody has this feeling. I got this feeling. I know you have this feeling that at some point the kettle is going to steam, that at some point something major is going to happen. And who knows? September could be that month. October could be that month. November could be that month. But I think that we're going to have a September to remember. I surely do, because everything is in place. If you think about a game of chess, it's all about strategy. It is all about setting up the board to finalize your attack. And that is what we are seeing right now with Trump and the various different factions aligned with Donald Trump. We have now RFK Jr. playing that role, coming into the Trump campaign. We have many other people joining about with this. So we are about to have one hell of a September. So it's going to be crazy. Buckle up for that. Trump put out a new campaign ad today, 1 minute long. Let's take a look at this. I want to check this out as well. I've seen it already, but let you guys watch this. Check this out. Oh, I got to go ahead and initiate it.
And I will fight together to defeat the corrupt political establishment and return control of this country to the people.
And don't you want a president who's going to get us out of the wars and who's going to rebuild the middle class in this country, who's going to protect America's freedoms, that's going to make America healthy again?
I think what RFK's endorsement really shows is that the Kennedy Democrats are actually more at home in the Republican Party of Donald Trump.
Today I'm honored to officially welcome another true American patriot.
Whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, if you love our country, as I do, if you cherish peace and freedom as we do, I invite you to join me in doing all that we can to save our country and elect President Donald J. Trump and send him back to the White House to do the tough work of saving our country and serving the people. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
So quite interesting. RFK coined this the other day as the Unity Party, right? We know that we needed a creation of a new political party, but did we just see this convergence happen? We have people from all different political spectrums joining along with Trump. And this is that precipice that we've been talking about, when people finally wake up, people stop adhering to the psychological warfare that is being brought out by the uni party that is playing its role in Congress and Senate right now. And that we have a unifying campaign that brings Democrats, moderates, independents, conservatives all together on one platform. And that is exactly what we are seeing. And think about this as a game of chess. This is massive, right? Let's jump into this. So Donald Trump was recently on the Sean Ryan podcast, which Sean Ryan, if you're not subscribed to him, go on over to YouTube. He's got a great podcast. Trump, just the other day in this interview, was released yesterday, Monday, declares war on the crooked and dishonest Washington establishment. They're going to be held accountable. These people tried to assassinate him. These people shot a bullet at his head with all intentions of killing Donald Trump and fueling, instigating, starting a civil war. It's good to remember this, that whoever made that decision to activate that MK Ultra 20-year-old Patsy kid, whoever made that decision, they were 100% completely ready for chaos the next week, for the MAGA conservatives, the radical right-wing extremists to rise up and begin. They had everything in place. Don't underestimate them. They had everything ready to take guns away, everything ready for National Guard response. They had all of this stuff ready because they knew the implications of their choices and decisions. Well, that didn't happen. They missed their shot. The shot heard around the world. So Donald Trump is now firing back. What did he just say on the Sean Ryan podcast? Check this scene. This is 5 minutes. I don't think I'll play the whole thing, but I'm going to play some of it. This is from MJ Truth. Let me go in here, put this on. All right.
One of the biggest problems within the country is the distrust in the United States government. I'm one of them. I have zero trust in any government agencies. I have zero trust in our Congress and our Senate, anything. We have a government that's not functioning right now.
Yeah.
How are you going to gain the trust back of the American people within the government? And are we going to see anybody held accountable?
Yeah. The answer is yes on the second. They're going to be held accountable. They've got to be held accountable. What they're doing, they're destroying this country. They're crooked people. They're dishonest people. They're going to be held accountable. But what I find is, so when I came to Washington, I won an election that everybody said, they thought I was just going to have some fun. Everyone said, he's got too good a life. I did. I had the greatest life. I went from that to having bullets shot at me, okay? I had the greatest life. And they said, would you do it again? I said, without question, because we're going to save the country. It's much more important than I had a good life. A lot of people have a good life. It's like not the same thing. We're going to make America great again. Literally, we're going to make America greater than ever before. If we don't do it this time, we'll never be able to do it. It'll be too late. It'll be too far gone. But we're going to have great people. When I came in originally, I didn't know anybody in Washington. I was only there 17 times. You may have heard me say this. I never stayed over.
How many times, Mr. President? How many times were you there?
Only there 17 times. You may have heard me say this. Came in originally. I didn't know anybody in Washington. I was only there 17 times. You may have heard me say this. I never stayed over. I built a hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue, which was a great hotel and very successful, and then sold it. And then what happened is I didn't really know anybody in Washington. I was a New York person. I wasn't like a Washington, D.C. person. And all of a sudden, I'm president, and I'm driving down Pennsylvania Avenue with more police and motorcycles and military than I've ever seen before in my life. I said to my wife, do you believe this? I'm president. But I didn't know anybody in Washington. And I had to rely on people to give me names. And many were really good. I mean, Bob Lighthizer, I had great trade people. I had some great people. But I also picked people that, in retrospect, I wouldn't have picked. But now I know The smart ones, the dumb ones, the weak ones, the solid ones, the ones like you. I know the people, I know everybody, sort of like everybody. And we're going to have a great government. I didn't know. I had to rely on people I'd ask, I don't want to use names because I don't want to embarrass, they're not bad people, but I'd ask people that were rhinos, who do you recommend for such and such a position? All important positions. And they'd recommend some people that were rhinos or something, or weak or not good. And I don't have to ask too much right now. I know the people, and I've known them through fighting and wars. I've known them through, because all this stuff, I had great support. Don't forget, I beat Nancy Pelosi. I beat all these people, every one of them. And somebody said, you know, if you look at it, he beat the Clinton family, right? And that was really Obama too, because he was behind her 100% like he was running. And I beat the Bush family. I beat everybody. And now I beat Biden. I got him out. I beat him twice, actually. I beat him the first time, but now I beat him a second time because it was the debate that got him out. And now I have to beat somebody that nobody ever heard of, who's a Marxist. And I think I'll be able to do that. But I know the people now. I've been in government now for 8 years. I was in government for no years. I mean, I became president and I said, I've never done this before. It's pretty, you know, sort of a miracle. You know, in the history of our country, we had 92% politicians become president and 8% generals. Not admirals, but generals, only generals. So those were the only two, politicians and generals. You know, George Washington, Dwight Eisenhower. Actually, he was very good, very strong on the borders. Eisenhower was strong on the borders, a moderate guy, but very, very strong on the borders. He had big deportation. But 92% was politicians, and 8%, there was nobody else. And then I came along. And so people were surprised. But I know the system, I know the people, I know some great people, and I know some people that I wouldn't put in. But you learn that. And so now I'm a very experienced guy, and we're going to bring our country back, and we're respected. We're going to be respected again with other countries. Don't forget, I had no wars, other than I defeated ISIS, but that war was already
one of the... All right, so interesting words. Number one is he's been in Washington, D.C. 17 times. We all know what that means. 17th letter of the alphabet there. But on the other hand, what does he say? They are going to be held accountable. Then he goes through and talks about his mistakes during his first administration, the people that he trusted, but then he names the people: Obama, the Clintons, the Bushes. He starts naming the deep state, and they're going to be held accountable. So think about this in the sense of chess strategy. They took a shot at him. Now, what is he doing? He's got Tulsi Gabbard. He's got RFK Jr., he's got Vivek, he's got all of these smart, very powerful people around him. Yeah, they might be associated with various different organizations and so forth. This is the multi-headed hydra that we've talked about many different times. There's various different factions, various different ideologies, right? But many of them have capitulated and joined with Donald Trump. Okay, Meta, Facebook being the latest one. Okay, I wouldn't doubt it if you see Mark Zuckerberg come out and endorse Donald Trump for president. I'm shitting you not on this. With that being said, the deep state that is hanging on for dear life right now, they are desperate. So what do? They take another shot at Donald Trump. Jack Smith's grand jury has brought up new superseding indictment against Donald Trump in an effort to interfere with the 2024 election. This is absolutely hilarious. Jack Smith is trying to work around the July 1st SCOTUS ruling for presidential immunity, and he's removed all the charges that dealt with executive authority, and he's brought back these other charges. Now, this is interesting because Donald Trump has responded to this, and I'm going to read you Donald Trump's response, okay, because it's important. In an effort to resurrect the dead witch hunt in Washington, D.C., in an act of desperation and in order to save face, the illegally appointed special counsel, deranged Jack Smith, has brought up a ridiculous new indictment against me, which has all the problems of the old indictment and should be dismissed immediately. His Florida document hoax case has been completely dismissed. This is merely an attempt to interfere with the election. He's absolutely right on this. And distract the American people from the catastrophes Kamala Harris has inflicted on the nation, like the border invasion, migrant crime, rampant inflation, and the threat of World War III and more. This travesty is now Comrade Kamala Harris, who is actively pushing it rather than immediately calling for its dismissal, as should be done. This is the third world countries and banana republics, not for the USA. Jack Smith knows the whole case should be thrown out and dismissed on presidential immunity grounds, as already ruled unequivocally by the U.S. Supreme Court. Smith rewrote the exact same case in an effort to circumvent the Supreme Court decision. The people of our country will see what is happening with all of these corrupt lawsuits against me and will reject them by giving me an overwhelming victory in November 5th on President of the United States. For them to do this immediately after our Supreme Court victory on immunity and more is shocking. I've been informed by my attorneys that you're not even allowed to bring cases literally right before an election, a direct assault on democracy. This is unprecedented abuse of criminal justice system. The case has to do with conspiracy to obstruct the 2022 presidential election, which, well, when they are the ones that did the actual obstruction of the election, not me. They cheated on the election and they go after me for cheating on the election. Interestingly, this comes at the exact moment and time that Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook has admitted to concealing massive amounts of information, such as Hunter Biden's laptop from hell, which is the direct acknowledgement that the 2020 presidential election was manipulated and rigged by the DOJ. What they are doing now is the single greatest sabotage of our democracy in history. No presidential candidate or candidate for any office has ever put up with all of this lawfare and weaponization directly out of the office of a political opponent. They've weaponized local DAs and attorney generals and anybody else that will listen to interfere with the upcoming 2024 presidential election. Never been done before. This is now Kamala's weaponized system against a political opponent. All of these scams will fall, just as deranged Jack's hoax in Florida has been fully dismissed, and we will win the most important election in the history of our country on November 5th. Make America great again. A few points about this. Number one is he says that Jack Smith is not actually legitimately appointed. He's absolutely right. It's already been determined by Clarence Thomas in the Supreme Court in this decision that Jack Smith's appointment is questionable. Congress investigated this and found out that the office of the special counsel was not appointed by Congress, as which it should have been, but by Garland himself, which is the wrong steps, which means that Jack Smith's authority is completely null and void. And we will see the judge actually throw this out. But it's interesting. This is the desperation that they are taking. These are shots being fired at Trump right now. Now, interesting enough, Donald Trump starts this with, in an effort to resurrect the dead witch hunt in Washington, D.C. Today's date is August 27th, 2024. August 27th. The witch hunt started up again with Jack Smith. Donald Trump's truth post started with witch hunt. 1937, August 27th, 2018. Witch hunt. No deals. Guys, I'm just a messenger here. That is pretty damn extraordinary in the sense of timing. Blowing my mind with stuff like that. So this comes on the same day that Donald Trump has agreed to debate Kamala Harris on September 10th, the day before September 11th, which I also find incredibly interesting. The day before September 11th, the anniversary, Donald Trump's going to debate Kamala Harris. Kamala will not have a teleprompter. We've seen how this goes for her with her run-on sentences making absolutely zero sense whatsoever. So what can we expect here? I think we can expect something very, very similar if Trump is on his A game to what happened to Joe Biden, to where Kamala gets completely decimated by Donald Trump in this debate, to where maybe there is something that happens after. I don't want to say that because I don't want to bring that bad juju into the place, but we are in September. We're in a very volatile time for our country. So the debate will be stand up, and the candidates cannot bring notes or cheat sheets. We also have been given assurance by ABC that this will be a fair and equitable debate and that neither side will be giving questions in advance. No, Donna Brazil. Harris would not agree to the Fox News debate on September 4th, but that date will be held open in case she changes her mind. So interesting date, September 10th, the day before, obviously, September 11th, the anniversary. Now, Tucker Carlson was on with Alex Jones. I'm not going to play this whole segment as it's incredibly long, but listen to what Tucker Carlson says, because it's really repeating what I'm saying here. And it's interesting that many of us in this kind of this medium are saying the same exact thing, but listen to Tucker here.
Killing Trump was the national crisis I referred to that they will always resort to out of desperation if they think they're going to lose power. And that would have been a crisis. I mean, first of all, it would have resulted in the death of an innocent, of a man, okay, which is always a tragedy no matter where it happens, in my opinion. But the trauma to the country, watching a man get shot. I mean, the great thing about the Zapruder film is you really have to watch carefully to see the gore in it, to watch the top of the president's head come off. But Trump was being shot in, HD, close up. If he'd been shot in the face, that would have been the single ugliest, goriest, most horrifying thing 300 million people had ever seen. And that's just bad. That's just bad right there. It's pornography on a moral level, okay?
It'd be a snuff film.
It would be a snuff film. And like watching that stuff is bad for you. Actually, it damages you, in my opinion. I know that. So that. But then this sort of subsequent effect, the ripples out from that, the chaos, the people realizing, wait a second, they just murdered the only hope of the disenfranchised half of the country. And they arrest the guy for allowing ordinary people to say what they think and to oppose the policies of governments. What? And then of course they, smear him as an abettor of kiddie porn or whatever. The biggest child traffickers in the world are the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. More than 10 million people trafficked across our border. I mean, how many tech moguls do you actually like personally? I really like him. Decent, nice person. Yeah, and a truly principled guy. And it makes me, want to invade France, which honestly makes me so mad. But if they think that there's a chance that Trump could win decisively enough in November that they can't steal it, then I think their only option there is to, in some way, throw the society into chaos, as they did during COVID, which was the pretext for changing the way we vote and letting people vote anonymously without IDs and drop boxes and a month before the election, et cetera. They completely changed everything, allowing Mark Zuckerberg to spend $400 million to control the mechanics of the election. That would not have been allowed except under a state of national emergency provided them by the virus they created in a lab in Wuhan, COVID. The leftist worldview, this helpless, alone, afraid, anxiety-ridden, terrified child in an adult body that is the average leftist, that's the mindset that drives their behavior. And no one described it as well as Ted Kaczynski. They don't believe in God, so they're terrified of death. They have no skills, so they're terrified of change. I mean, they've created an entire fake economy to elevate and compensate people who can't do anything useful. We live in a world where people who can plumb your house don't get paid anything relative to somebody who has no skills at all, who's working in the DEI department of a community college. The Biden administration, in charge of his bodyguards, allowed him to be shot. You can say, well, they didn't know that was what going to happen. They weren't coordinating with the shooter. Okay, I'm willing to believe that. It doesn't change the fact that they allowed it. And in other words, if I let my toddler play by my swimming pool and go to Walmart for an hour and he drowns, I didn't drown him, but I allowed him to be drowned. It's the same crime.
Exactly.
So that's what they did. And that's sick. Like, they're sick. They have no limits at all. They're flirting with nuclear war, which would eliminate human life on the planet right now. So we should not underestimate their callousness to human life. They committed abortion outside in the parking lot at the DNC. These people don't have limits. And I don't think the average non-liberal can really understand that. It's like, well, you know, at a certain point they'll pull back. No, they won't.
All right. Tucker says there at the end, they won't pull back. What is he saying? They will scorch this earth before they ever give up power. There is no way in hell, any way, shape, or form, that they are going to give up power to Donald Trump or to anybody else. They have secured it in 2020, and they are not giving it up. They will produce World War III nuclear warfare. They will go to the ends of the earth to keep and retain power. Number two, because they understand that once Donald Trump comes in, it's over. It's over. The DOJ is going to be turned on, that they are going to investigate this treason, sedition, this criminal complicity, that these people are going to be held responsible. They are fighting for their life and their survival. They will go all in to win this. They will steal the election. They'll steal the House of Representatives. They will produce civil war. They will produce World War III. They will crash the economy. They will bring about a new bioweapon and pandemic. They will do all of the above systematically. They allow their illegal immigrant army to run rampant on American cities, and they will do it strategically and give China and Iran free reign to run those operations. These people truly are sick. But here's the catch. It's you and I that make the difference. MAGA isn't about Trump. Trump is the head of the MAGA revolution, of the conservative revolution, of this patriot revolution that is going on right now. It's not even conservative anymore. You got RFK Jr., you got Tulsi Gabbard, you got the Weinstein, you got everybody from old liberalism joining this movement. It is now a unified America. The precipice has been reached. But Donald Trump is just the lead and the head figure. They kill him, he becomes a martyr. It is you and me that make up this movement, that make up this revolution. It is you and me who, at the end of the day, are the determining factor of whether this country turns to full-blown socialism or communism. It's you and me that determine whether our states turn against us and throw us in the quarantine zones. If our guns get taken away, if our children get thrown into war. We are the deciding factor. We are the ultimate decision. Just like in 2020, if America knew what they knew now, and 2020 happened all over again, the results, the outcomes would be different. It's interesting to see as well that the Harris-Walz campaign is now adopting the various policies from Donald Trump. Just the other day, they announced that, yes, they are going to close down the border. They are going to build a wall. Now, the Harris-Walz campaign has came out and said that they no longer support the electric vehicle mandate. This is number one, to a target against Elon Musk, and number two, because they know that when they get into power, that they have to restore the economic value of this country by redrilling in the United States of America, bringing down gas prices. And also that's going to be hinged upon what happens in the Middle East and what happens in Eastern Europe. But California, they've gone full fucking commie. California lawmakers have approved $150,000 down payment assistance for illegal immigrants. California lawmakers approved AB 1840, allowing undocumented immigrants to receive up to $150,000 in down payment assistance for homes through the California Dream for All loan program. Initially, this program was only for legal residents, but the new version expands eligibility to undocumented immigrants. The bill passed the state Senate with a vote of 23-11. Gavin Newsom has yet to commit to signing the bill into law, stating he will evaluate its merits. Now, it'll be interesting to see what Gavin Newsom actually does on this. I mean, if he disapproves this is a staunch stance against Marxism, which is kind of interesting. He's already taken credit for the state of California's homelessness and the ejection of all the people out of California, moving away because of the high taxes and the rampant crime. But bills like this are the push towards Marxism, are the push towards the social structure that is very, very similar to how Maoist China was created, how Leningrad was created, Stalingrad was created. California has fallen to the Marxists if this becomes a reality. Not only is this criminal to the taxpayers of the state of California, but it's also a national security risk for anybody and everybody in every other state around California. And I urge those states, Texas, so forth, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, to file lawsuits with the Supreme Court against the state of California because of the national security risk that this poses by basically going out there and incentivizing illegal immigration into the country and then giving them taxpayer dollars, which is exactly what the federal government is doing. But surprise, not more lawsuits have come about from this. Joe Biden had responded to the Texas Supreme Court ruling. He said, a single district in Texas ruled that my administration's work to keep families together has to stop. That ruling was wrong. Families should not be needlessly separated. They should be able to stay together. My administration will not stop fighting for them. Families he's talking, by the way, are illegal immigrants coming over the border illegally, which we know 85% of the families that come over the border with children, those aren't their parents. Those are handlers that have been put in place to observe and watch over and hand off those kids to human traffickers. So Joe Biden, in a sense, is supporting this. And Attorney General Ken Paxton of Texas did not stop from responding here. He said, Biden is lying. This unlawful scheme is about fast-tracking over 1 million illegal aliens for citizenship and rewarding them with full benefits and voting rights. By federal law, they are not eligible for parole. That's why Texas sued. Now that we temporarily blocked their scheme in court, Biden and Harris are desperate to deceive Americans. But nobody is buying their excuses about this policy. It's designed to undermine national sovereignty and a rule of law and sway the election. Worse, Biden and Harris have lost track of more than 300,000 children who have crossed the border and are now at risk of sex trafficking and forced labor. This is from the Attorney General of Texas. This is real and legitimate shit, people. These are official numbers reported by their own administration. They have no right to lecture anyone about family unification. They are tearing families apart and delivering children to unthinkable abuse. Their open border agenda is destroying this country. Law and order must prevail. I love Ken Paxton and what he's doing there. This is why they targeted him with the FBI investigation. But here's the thing. Let's look at what's happening here. If you look at swings to the left and the right, they attempt to assassinate Donald Trump. Then we see the coup of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris come in, which we know is a mistake, but the left had to run with it anyway. This goes into the RNC. This goes into the DNC. Vance came in. I don't think that was a great pick, but now we got RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard coming in and actually joining on with the campaign. So there's back and forth. The Trump assassination attempt is not even being talked about by the mainstream media anymore. Everything is talking about how Kamala is leading in the polls, 4 points, 8 points, 22 points in some polls. But when you start looking at the numbers of these polls, you're seeing that they're massively skewed. None of them, not one of them that I've seen, has had over 33% of polling directed by conservatives. Instead, you have everything, at least a 8-point difference between Democrats and conservatives. And then the moderate and independent vote seems to be almost very close to the conservative, ranging between 28 to 35%. In some points, the moderate and independent voters are actually overtaking the conservative voters, which is the second biggest political party in our country. So it makes no sense on how they're pulling this, but that's why they're doing it. They're pulling it in this specific way to skew the results of the polls, because this is an aspect of psychological warfare that acts on the minds of people who listen to mainstream media and hear this stuff. And they hear about the popularity that Kamala Harris is having, and oh my God, she's up 8 points, and people wonder who to vote for, and this skews their opinion. Very similar to how the Joe Biden administration admitted just recently that during the 2020 campaign, and as well in the 2024 campaign and the 2022 congressional campaigns, what they did is they colluded with Google and other big tech companies to, in real time, skew people's opinions by changing news headlines and stories and information, putting in front of them misinformation pieces to skew their opinion when various different questions were asked on Google's search engine and queried. They will go to any and all extents to keep and retain power because they know that their lives are literally at risk, that their power base is crumbling. We've had massive amounts of people within the globalist infrastructure abandon the radical left. The only thing that they have left is the power of this administration, which is not very much at this point in time. So what's going to happen? Well, everybody's talking about a monkeypox pandemic. I've been hearing it for the last few months, and we're still getting the scare, the fear of monkeypox everywhere. Today, the Mirror put out this article, Mpox warning as worried expert says virus mutating in the new strains faster than expected. Faster than expected. What else are they saying about it? Oh, well, they're also saying that the new Mpox strain is changing fast. African scientists are working blind to respond. Oh, here we go, people. Where have you heard this before? Where have you heard this fear and propaganda all over again? Scientists studying the new Mpox strain that has spread out of the Democratic Republic of Congo say the virus is changing faster than expected and often in areas where experts lack the funding and equipment to properly track it. This means that there are numerous unknowns about the virus itself, its severity, and how it's transmitted, complicating the response. Half a dozen scientists in Africa and Europe and the United States told Reuters. Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox, has been a public health problem in parts of Africa since 1970, but received little global attention until it served internationally in 2022, prompting the WHO to declare a global health emergency, which they just released that global health emergency, by the way. The strain is mutated version of the Clade 1, a form of Mpox spread by contact with infected animals that have been endemic in Congo for decades. Mpox typically causes flu-like symptoms and pus-filled lesions and can kill you. What are they finding out? Well, Mpox is now they're finding out that it's spread more rapidly, and the reason why it's mutating so much is because it spreads more rapidly because of sex. Well, guess what? That was mainly the only way to get monkeypox is through anal sex. And now they're saying it spreads more rapidly and it's mutating because of sex. I think that it's nothing more than just another bioweapon that was engineered by various different cabals around the world. But see, there's something else that I've been warning people about. And I said that because we have the immunosuppressed people, and I'm working on an article, by the way, on this that's going to be released on my Substack in the next day or two. It's massive amounts of research I've been putting together for months pertaining to this one topic, and that is Oxitec and Bill Gates' genetically modified mosquitoes. I just did a show on this yesterday talking about it. New Hampshire resident dies after testing positive for mosquito-borne Eastern equine encephalitis virus. Here we go, people. The mosquito viruses are now coming about and showing regional dominance. Exactly what I talked about. Regionally isolated mosquito-borne viruses. CDC confirms 21 Oropouche virus cases into U.S. travelers. CDC reports that cases of the Oropouche virus in the U.S. travelers returning from Cuba with symptoms like fever and muscle aches. The virus is spreading by midges and has no specific treatment or vaccine available. This is another mosquito-borne virus. Interesting to note, this is coming from Cuba. Interesting. Cuba. Well, why is that interesting? Remember when I told you that Oxitec, Bill Gates funded company, dropped billions of mosquitoes by Key West and Miami 3.5 years ago? Remember how I told you that these mosquitoes have a 3.5-year life cycle when it comes to the incubation period of basically genetically modifying enough of that D7 protein within that mosquito to have a transmittable effect in the human beings? And now they're saying that this is coming from Cuba. We're not going to have one pandemic that is going to simply be monkeypox or COVID. It's going to be epidemics rising everywhere, rise of illness, occurring in geographic areas that bring rise to things that the reason they will do this way, by the way, is because There's not going to be a national response. It'll be a local response. Very similar to what just happened in Massachusetts with what they call voluntary lockdowns, voluntary curfew. 6 p.m., 5 p.m. is the curfew that was established. And they're saying it's voluntary, but it's not voluntary. If you're out past that time, they will arrest you. And this is happening in multiple counties in Massachusetts. Now we have the same virus that is in New Jersey, which their counties will begin implementing lockdowns. And now we're going to see this in probably Miami-Dade because people are coming in from Cuba with these various different illnesses. And counties will have to start quarantining against this. See, they don't want to drive this on the national level because that is going to bring about too much attention, once again, to where people will not comply. So what they're going to do is geographically isolate various different epidemics that are going to occur. And they'll utilize the local governments to instill the quarantine measures and lockdowns. Then, once you have the aspect of a pandemic in place, that is when the national response will come about. And that's when they will seize control of the internet. Very similar to what we were also talking about yesterday. They will seize control of the internet. They'll start shutting down chatter. The arresting of the Telegram CEO is just the beginning of all of this. When this national crisis or this global crisis begins to unfold, they will blame Elon Musk. They'll blame Mark Zuckerberg. They'll blame the various different apps that we use as those who are bringing about the risk and death to others. Think about the new UK laws that are being imposed. Think about the new UK laws that are being imposed. If you impose violence or hatred on the other people or put people at risk by your online content, you will be arrested and shut down by the UK. France just reinitiated this. Other countries are following suit. So what happens when there's another pandemic? And Twitter, X.com, has all these people posting, don't comply, it's all a scam. Now the governments will come after and shut down X. Now they will take control of that situation. This is their plan, people. And it's got to happen in between now and January 20th for them to secure the ability to take down the power base, for them to secure the ability to shut you and me up and take us down. They also have to control communications. Well, hey, hasn't over the last 2 years, there's been various attacks on the 911 operating systems throughout the United States of America? What's that all about? Well, what's that all about? That's all about the end game. That's all about the firestorm. That's all about what happens when shit hits the proverbial fan and the illegal immigrants in all of these liberal safe haven cities are released onto the American public. I'm going to tell you how that's going to go. But at first, more disinfo from Iran into Western chatter. We heard today from Insider Paper and from various other sources, White House's Kirby, the Defense Department's press secretary, saying this. Kirby believes that Iran is postured and poised to launch an attack on Israel. White House's Kirby says messaging to Iran has been, don't do it. Is there reason to potentially start some sort of regional war? White House's Kirby says U.S. will defend Israel in the event of an Iranian attack. This is more chatter. We've been hearing for weeks that Israel's coming out. The U.S. intelligence is coming out saying, oh, Iran's going to attack within 24 to 72 hours. 24 to 72 hours. Never happens. Why? I told you this. I laid out Iran's strategy. Once U.S. okay, so Iran is waiting patiently, people. They are waiting for NATO to enter the conflict in Eastern Europe, pulling U.S. forces out of the Middle East. It is only a matter of time until NATO goes full retard. Once U.S. forces move out of the Middle East and a greater conflict occurs in Eastern Europe, Iran will strike Israel. First with a cyber attack, then military bombardment or militant bombardment of the Iron Dome from the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah. And lastly, drone attacks on strategic targets, including Israeli nuclear sites to neutralize the Samson option. After that wave of attacks, Western forces will begin to move in and support Israel, but this would be too late. Not saying this would work, but it seems the most plausible strategic position Iran could take to avoid Western involvement. At the same time, China would most likely move on Taiwan, producing a three-fronted war, as we predicted for the last 4 years, destabilizing the Asia trade market, creating a global economic black swan event, weakening Western power base even more. And it gets worse. You got to remember, we have 17 days left in our strategic petroleum reserve. 17 days left in the strategic petroleum reserve. If the Middle East gets shut down, the trade routes get shut down, the U.S. military is dead in the water for a long time. It gets worse. As the U.S. implements a draft and ships men and women off to war, the inflow of illegal immigrations, which were military-aged men, known associations with terror organizations like Hezbollah's Unit 910, would begin destabilizing U.S. cities, starting with false flag distractions, which would pull first responders and emergency personnel away from their bases of operation. Then various teams of sleeper cells would begin taking over these base of operations and then attacking infrastructure. Get ready, the firestorm is coming. Don't think for a moment that an attack on Lackland Air Force Base, to where 2 men opened fire on the gate guards and gate guards returned fire, was any coincidence. Don't think that it's a coincidence that China's been buying rural farmland next to U.S. military bases. Don't think it's a coincidence that during the Minneapolis riots that they attacked the police stations and showed that they could get inside and burn down various different police precincts. These were all various different positions of timing, wondering how easy it is to penetrate various different points of defense in the United States of America infrastructure. At the time of a global economic collapse, at the time of World War III breaking out, the time when the U.S. is pulling its military resources because they've been massively depleted by the Biden administration, you're going to see a draft implemented. You're going to see lockdowns ensue because of a massive pandemic that is occurring, global economic financial collapse inbound. And then what's going to happen is they're going to let loose teams of 5, 20, and 25 militants that are already in American cities being funded by the United States government, ties and associations to China, with ties and associations to various different radical Islamic fundamental groups in the Middle East, coming from Northern Africa, coming from Syria, coming from Yemen, coming from the Hezbollah's Unit 910 that are trained by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, that are already in our cities. What's going to happen? They will perform various different false flag attacks at the same time. A cyber attack occurs on the national 9/11 communication systems, shutting between various different police and emergency services. These false flag attacks will draw police presence away from their precincts, away from their army, grab National Guard away from their base of operations. And this is when the attacks will begin to occur. They will take over the police precincts, which will give them access to the armories and be able to shut down the police from actually going out there and doing their jobs. Not only that, at that same point in time, the United States will be invaded from the inside, infiltrated from the inside, because the gates were already open. It is as simple as that. That is the firestorm. This is the midst that we are in right now. This is what we are fighting to stop. Now, I don't believe that voting in November 5th is going to stop this. We need the vote on November 5th because that vote is going to signify the change and transition, the global revolution that is occurring right now in the United States of America, birthing up right now in the United States of America. The global revolution being freedom. That we're done with the globalists, we're done with the elitists, we're done with the deep state. But it is ultimately going to lead, most likely, to this type of scenario. And the reason is because they will scorch the earth before they ever give up power. Joe Biden is stating that they will not gladly give up power to Donald Trump, that they will stop him at all in any cost. So buckle up, people. Shit is about to hit the proverbial fan. Things are happening. The world is waking up. We are in the Great Awakening, but we are also in the midst of the firestorm where chaos is going to ensue. I know that Trump and a lot of his patriots have plans. They have plans of preparation of what they're going to do, of how they're going to attack the deep state during these trying times. Stay strong. Put on the full armor of God, people. We are in that time frame. It is going to be biblical, as Nate would say, as many others would say. All right, if you guys want to help us out and support us, please follow, like, and comment. Also, if you want to check us out, redpills.tv. I can throw some links up on the screen if people want to check us out. redpills.tv. That is our primary website. You can find us there. If you want to support us by getting a subscription with us, socialredpill.com. That's a great place. If you guys need any type of supplies for prepping, My Patriot Supply, redpills.tv/patriot. And if you want to boost your immune system with one of our top sponsors here, immune modulating mushrooms, redpills.tv/mushroom. As well as if you also want to support us by just giving a donation, redpills.tv/go. redpills.tv/go. That's our Give Send Go campaign, as well as our PayPal, paypal.me/redpillstv. Guys, much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. I'm going to see you guys again tomorrow night. See you next.
Spoon, that's impossible. Only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.